Hi everyone, welcome back to ITOM Batch 3, Day 17. How are you doing guys today?
Very well, Ajay. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. So again, before proceeding the next session today, is there any questions from the last covered sessions related to discovery schedules? Any questions on it?
Hi Ajay.
Yes,
Uh,
Muskan.
Ajay, what are things has been captured in updates, Ajay, regarding to discovery,
Oh,
like
okay, so as you know that update set will never capture the data, right? And our discovery all depends or all going through the data only, right? So what you can capture in update set is like credentials. You can capture, if you are going to be modify any out of the box configuration, or you are putting any or creating any custom patterns, props or whatever, right? That you can capture, but you cannot capture the mid server installations and other things in the mid servers. You cannot capture your discovery, cannot capture, right? So the same mid server you have to be installed again on that another instance as well. You have to be run the discovery again. Yeah, somehow you also be able to capture the discovery schedules, and you can push discovery schedules from one instance to another instance as well. But in that case you have to be little bit make sure, because when you are going to be moving out the discovery schedule from one instance to another instance. So let's take an example. On the dev instance you are running discovery schedule with xyz mid servers. I'm pretty sure the same xyz mid server name will not be there on another instance, right? So you are going to use the different name on the different instance, right? So that's why when you are moving out the discovery schedules, you have to be make sure and manually update the mid server on the discovery schedule on any other instance. But yeah, related as I mentioned, configuration changes, pattern, props. If you are doing modifications, that is going to be captured in update sets basically.
okay, Ajay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's why we say discovery is something different from normal, implementations, as well as you have to be do a couple of efforts again and again to move out from dev to test and test to prod, right? That should not work, and it should not work simply like we can move up, or moving out the update from one instance to another instance like for any other implementations basically. Okay, so any other questions?
Ajay, I just want to know if I would like to set up some discovery, which is like, a kind of a continuous every day. What would be the best time uh, uh, by default, like, which we should, as a good practice, we should like, schedule so that if anything happens, any new additions, any updates and all those, so at least like, that is captured in the discovery. So what would be the best time?
Right. So, best time you cannot assume based on your understanding, right?
Mm-hmm.
Best time is, think, is something which you have to be discussed with your customer to understand their updates or changes in their infrastructure side, right? First thing. Second thing, always I'm prefer, or customer is also going to be prefer to run the discovery in non-business hours. So let's take an example here again. Like I'm working in an organization, uh, like who are main head office or headquarter in Germany or US. So I will avoid to run discovery in this that particular time, because I know in the US or Germany hours more pupils will be logged in, right? But if I say in IST hours there are no more pupils are going to be logged in, right? So as of now, if I simply say like it's 7 9 a.m. in India, At the same time, in the US is the PM, right? So it's evening time, right? So after 8 a.m. or 9 a.m., I can run, one discovery for that particular schedule. So in simple words, it's a non-business, non-official hours or non-business hours where less pupils are logged in into that particular system, right? Second, as I mentioned, you can check with customer or the for which you are implementing discovery when most changes happen on their infrastructures, right? Because they, if they are doing any changes, they are also following some change window when they are going to be update any hardware or any software or any other informations or their infrastructures, right? After that we can schedule that on based on that we can decide and we can schedule the discovery schedule daily basis if we need. But again, what I feel, we're not required to do the discovery on daily basis. We should run the the periodically or the alternate day discovery, because I have not seen any infrastructure or any customer who have modifying or updating their infrastructure daily basis, right? Except
Mhm.
one or two devices or 5% of devices of their IP ranges or their infrastructures, right? Also, again, if we have multiple locations, multiple regions, we can also discuss with the customer which is the region most frequently updated for infrastructure side, right? So there are two possibilities. One region is going to be update or infrastructure changes happening in the weekly basis or the monthly basis, but there is one region or one data centers who are mostly used most of the time, and that is going to be update, or that infra changes happen done every day or every week or alternate day. So only for that particular discovery schedule, that particular IP ranges or that particular region, you can do it every day in non or off business hours, basically.
Okay.
And my suggestion is also one more thing here. Try to document each and everything in your requirement gathering things, right? So when you, again, as you know, when we are starting the discovery, we have to do a couple of workshop sessions with customer to understand their edges configurations, what they are expected and what we can achieve through the ServiceNow discovery to showcase, right? So we have to be document each and everything in functional requirement document related to that. So on the last moment when we are going to be configure or providing any handover to support team or going live with that particular things customer, and you don't have any misunderstanding, or you are both agreed on those particular things basically in same time.
Yeah, that I'm doing it.
Okay, sure. Any other questions from anyone else, or shall we start?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ajay, I have one more thing, which is sorry.
Go ahead, go ahead.
In scheduled while scheduling the discovery, like I can see that the credential areas, when we use that credential areas and what is the purpose of that, I have a bit confused on that. Last time also we haven't discussed on the same.
So you are talking about credential alias, right?
Yep.
Okay, let me update you on that point. One moment. Because I also never use the credential alias basically, but that is something which we can configure if we are doing any, in simple words, if I say, let me rephrase you one moment in different way.
Okay.
Okay. One moment only. So what I understand from the documentation of the ServiceNow, that ServiceNow says credential alias is basically allow an administrator to use specific credentials on the discovery schedule. You can configure behavior for your alias as well, right? So let me, I think it will be good if I can showcase you something on that side, right? Let me quickly share my screen to you guys. Let me know once my screen is visible to you.
Yes, Ajay.
Yes. So you're talking about that credential alias, right? So if I go here, let me open this one. This particular table is going to be, let me open this in different way. Credential alias. See, so that is the credential alias table, credential connection and credential alias table, right? If you want to be, connect with any, if in what I am trying to say, if you want to be connect with any third party applications to collect the data on the same discovery IPs. If you say here, there are two things. One is the credentials and one is the connection and credentials, right? So if when I go here on the discovery schedule, it's referring only the credentials, right? So CCID, SPOC, CCID, DigiCerts, and GoDaddy, right? So what happening here, if you want to be get some certificates from the DigiCert or any other third-party tool on the same IP, you can also add those credentials here to discover that particular thing, right? So if I open just GoDaddy one, the credentials, right? So that particular credentials is part of that certificate inventory and management application, but that's created here, right, as an ID. So let me click on it, add it here. So see, so they just created here, and when we are doing normal discovery, we can use that particular credentials to run the discovery, or discover that certificate on the same time while we are running discovery on that particular discovery schedule. Right. If I go and click a new credentials or credential alias here, you can put name. You can put parent alias if something is there. It's the same table which you have to be referred. You can put the type, what type of connections you want to do, right? It's HTTP, JDBC, GMS, right? So it it just like you are doing a REST API or data source integration here, which you want to utilize on your discovery schedule. In the simple words, that is the only use of that credential alias basically. Right, it can support multiple active actions, or if you want to put any template here, which template you can configure here, right? So you can use that one basically. So like credential alias comes in the picture for certificate inventory discovery, or if you are doing JDBC connections with some third party tool, and if you are doing HTTP call with any other particular devices to get the data, or you want to do OAuth authentications, right? So you can configure that particular templates and particular things, and get the data from there. But what I personally feel, or what I do, I never use that particular credential alias, because we have the capability again to go through the data sources to create those particular things and run the discovery for a specific third party tool to get the data. Second thing, if I just like, one more example here for certificates, right? So we have option available here, certificates which we can use for the same IPs, same discovery schedule where certificates can be discovered if I have configured the certificate credential in credentials table directly, right? But in that case, we have to run the two discovery schedule, but it will gives us more visibility around it. Like if we have two discovery schedules, I can understand the data is populating from this data is going to be populated from X discovery schedule, and the certificate related data is going to be populated from Y discovery schedule, and it is very helpful to troubleshoot and get that visibility around it, right? Yeah, someone raised hand. Yes, Eklavya.
Ajay, when you say certificates, which certificates are these? These are LDAP certificates, or I mean, any specific example you can
Any
give?
type, any type of certificates, like whenever you are running any application on any infrastructure host, you are going to use the certificates, right? So that is LDAP certificates is there, or X.509 certificates are there, or some security certificates as well, which is provided by OEM. So if when you're talking about LDAP certificates, LDAP certificate is also part of it if you are running or using that same infra to discover it, right? End of the day, that is going to be installed on infra like as an application in simple words, if I say. And if you see here, if I type certificates, so we have unique certificates, or let me open this one. We have multiple certificate authorities which is providing that one, right? So DigiCert, Interest, Sactico, Microsoft CA, Interest, CAGW, right? So there are a
No,
lot.
these are the OEMs which provide the certificates. That is fine.
Yeah.
What I was trying to say is, say example, when you schedule for certificates and it finds some certificates. So where exactly we will see those certificates with name, say example, LDAP certificates are sitting here. I mean, where exactly those data get set or set
So that
in service now?
LDAP, you have given our logical name to that certificates. That
No,
is
I'm just
LDAP.
giving the example. I'm just
Right.
citing the example.
But that certificate will be visible in this particular table, unique certificate table, where you are able to see that, subject, common name, root, issuers, what is the state, what is the valid, from valid to assigned to change group, renewal tracking, as well as that relationship with this particular CI. Right. So we have to be track the certificate renewal or expiration on the time to time basis, right? So that particular things comes in that particular unique certificate tables out of the box discovery. So that is CMDB CIS certificate table. And there is one more table for installed certificates, which is again coming, which is installed certificate basically comes here again, the same format, same data. And you can also see the ports and discovery method, how that is populated here.
Can you go back to the schedule where we're setting up the certificate? Can you just go back?
Yes, yeah. Let me go here. See.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Certificate discovery.
It's the same, complete same. It just like include URL from HTTP endpoint table, or how do you want to be discovered, right? If you have certificate URLs, you have to be add here. Like if if I know, let me leave this page and go there. I just need to be provide the URL, right? So where I need to be collect that certificate, which is a service provider for that particular certificate, right? Simple. And once I done it, I'm able to discover that certificate. That is one way to discovering certificate using URL. And there is one another way which we can also discover certificates using the basically using the IPs as well, or infrastructure host on which directly certificate is going to be installed. So it that also comes when basically that there is complete another module which we call certificate and inventory management module, which is helping out us to discovery is going to be discover that certificate, but that particular module is going to help out to manage those certificates automatically. Like if any certificate is going to be expire, automatically we can create a task and assign to that team, so that team can update or renew that particular certificate. The same way, if new certificate want to be import, so directly that cannot become that come from that particular that particular come from that particular catalog task and populating that particular certificate to that directly that infrastructure host basically.
So is it like, this certificate and inventory management won't come under the discovery?
No, it's come under the ITOM visibility, not under the discovery. So and if you remember in the first place I mentioned, there are three main modules of ServiceNow: ITOM visibility, ITOM health, and one is that ITOM accelerators, right? So ITOM visibility have couple of things like discovery, certificate inventory management, firewall auditing, and couple of other things. Okay. Shall we proceed to the next things now?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Thank you. So my topic today is we discussed about discovery behavior. We discussed about discovery schedule, but discovery schedules we can configure using three things, right? Four things basically. We discussed about auto select mid server. So auto select mid server basically work on if we select auto select mid server, automatically any mid server will be select, but it's not recommended to use auto select mid server till that time we have not configured our mid server properly with that correct application. If you remember, we have to add applications like that particular mid server is dedicated for discovery or service mapping. If we have not configured in that way and we have lots of mid server available and couple of mid server is only couple of mid server is with all configuration, right, or all thing, right? So I'm not suggesting to use it. If we know we have 10 mid server and we have divided in the 10 mid server, 2 is for discovery, we have selected application as a discovery and service mapping, or 2 is divided for event management, 2 is divided for cloud management, 2 is divided for LDAP or something, right? Then only we have to use the auto select mid server. In that case, no, we know if we are running discovery, these are the only two mid servers which we have the discovery application is going to be triggered or going to be used for the discovery purpose. So I'm not suggesting to use this one, because if that is configuration is not correct in our side for the mid servers, we should avoid that. Otherwise, if we select auto select mid servers, it will pick any mid server from the mid server list which don't have the discovery capabilities, because it's checking the application. If it is all, it means it's have discovery capabilities, but sometimes that all which have the application on the mid server, it don't have the access to the direct that particular IP which we want to be discovered, right? We are going to be specific. Firewall policy is going to be open from some source or discovery mid servers to the target destination host, right? So we have to be take care on that side. Second thing is mid server cluster. Mid server cluster is very good and useful. I think I already discussed it, but yeah, let me showcase you once again quickly. So if I type here cluster, where mid server cluster, yeah, under the mid servers we have clusters. Here we can create the clusters, right? So I already created test one or test two. I think I already discussed this one, but yeah, let me showcase it quickly. So here, if you are using the mid server cluster, you can select that mid server that is mostly useful if you are doing discovery on production instance, right? So you can put in the failover or you can put in the load balance in the both ways, the type for the cluster available. Failover basically, the one mid server take up the all transactions or all discoveries schedule on the one time. If my one mid server is going to be down, which have the last order, automatically the next order one mid server will take up the transactions and my discovery will continue, and it will not impact my discovery because I have selected and we have configured through the mid server clusters, right? Second, second way, if we know we have huge IPs which we want to be discovered and we don't want to be stressed out only one mid server to be working on those things. So we can configure the load balance. What will happen in that case if we have two mid servers again or more than two mid servers? It depends on again order, what order we have put it. If one mid server order is 100, another mid server is order is 200, and another mid server order is 300. So what will happen, the first transaction goes to the first mid server which order is 100, second transaction goes to the second mid server which order has more than the earlier one, and the third transaction goes to, that means it's basically divide the load, and one mid server is not responsible, all three mid servers working or taking up that all chart all discovery transactions or discovery schedules on the same time, right? So it will devise the loss, and no stress on the mid servers in that particular case, right? So we can use this one discovery clusters, and that will useful when we are going to do the discovery on production instances basically, right? So we can select from here the whatever mid server we have configured, the test one or test two. So based on that, discovery will be triggered, right? Once failover time, as I mentioned, once my discovery is closed, or sorry, my mid server is down, first mid server, automatically second will take it up. If we select a specific mid server, here we need to be select only one mid server, right? So if it is down ITOM train, my discovery is completely impacted. My discovery is not running, or it's not going to be next step. So in that case, suggestion is going to use the mid-server cluster for production, right? Now, the next thing is, any questions before moving out to the next topic, use behavior one? I hope you're going, guys, following me.
Yeah, I'm good, Ajay.
Good. Yeah, Ajay.
Okay. You. Let me refresh one moment. Anyone knows what is behaviors and how that is working? Any idea? No. Okay. Shit. I closed it by mistake. Yeah. So behaviors is basically, if your customer is ask you, they will give you a huge IP range and they want to be discover only Linux machines or only Windows machines or only database or only network devices or any other thing, right? And they don't want to be discovered except, or they don't want to be discover any other devices in their infrastructures. But if they given you IP ranges, you don't know in that particular IP ranges which is Windows, which is Linux, or which is network device, right? But the condition is only you want to be discovered from that IP range all network devices except, or all network devices no Windows or Linux machine, right? So that time discovery behaviors comes in the picture basically, right? So you can configure, you can add these particular behaviors in your discovery schedule, and that will be triggered, that will be discovering only that particular machines or that particular device which is configured on this particular discovery behavior, right? So let me, if I open an example here, if I'm going to be create and discovery behavior. So what we are doing here now, we are going to be discover Linux only, right? So I'm just putting the name Linux only for now. Let me submit this one. After that Linux only, we have to be configure the, we need to be discover the Linux machine, and we have to be configure the discovery functionality, right? So if I go here on the new, we have to be defined couple of things. One is phase. If phase means on which phase we want to be trigger the discovery behavior or discovery functionality for that particular discovery schedule. Obviously from the first phase we are going to be do that, but if we just want to check, like let's explore or let's trigger the all ports, but we want to discover only Linux machine and all from that machine, so we can use the phase 2 as well. So Sesam prop will be triggered for all type of devices. It will check the connections, but end of the day it will discover only Linux machines if we start the phase 2, right? So let's start with the phase 1, functionality definition, right? So let's go that functionality definition. What happened? It's running little slow. Here, let me open this table. My bad. Okay. So here already, out of the box, couple of functionality definitions is configured. If you see, if I just want to discover Windows only, right? So what port props has been defined for Windows is WMI, WinRM, WinRM SSL, and TLS SSL certs basically, right? If I just for check for Unix only or SSH, right? the SSH, TLS, SSL certs or port prop we have added here. If I just want to discover, all except Windows and SNMP, right? So we have added SSH, HTTP, DNS, printer, OSX, IP phone, SLP, WAM. So in that case, Windows or network device will not be discovered, but SSH, storage, IP phones or other type of devices will going to be discovered, right? The same all except Windows. SNMP means network device, SSH means Linux, HTTP means the HTTP applications, printers. Again, that is going to be discovered. So what is the benefit of the using the discovery behaviors is it will help us to reduce our discovery time. Second thing, and it will going to be target to that particular device or that particular machines only which we want to be discover and populate in the ServiceNow CMDB, right? Now, if I select, if I open like Linux one, which we are going to be do that here. So what you can see, it's just nothing. It's port prop configured in that way. Only these particular two ports will be comes in the picture. Let me open this one, discovery port prop. What is the use of it? Let me showcase you. Right. So port props configured, right? So if you see here, DNS domain related things, right? ESXi, HTTP, IP phones, OS, and if in future, based on that classifications will be happening as well. But in future, if customer says, that this is also one of the port which you want to be add, and I need discovery and I need a classification should be triggered, right? So use this particular thing here. So if I simply say I need to be go for Windows, or I need to be discover the Windows machine, which classification will be triggered, that will Windows remote management HTTP Windows classification will be triggered, right? If I just want to trigger that Linux one, that Unix classification will be triggered based on that part. So this is the trigger point. Whatever the port we found open, based on that the next level classification will be triggered to check the credentials, or we in simple word if I say is this is the second phase trigger point based on that particular port, whatever the ports we found open, right? The same way SNMP classification will be triggered, or if is OSX or IP phone, whatever, right? So if in future we found no, there is no classification will be triggered and this is something custom port which is designed by the customer, we can also come here, configure the discovery port prop, and also we need to be configure one more thing which is IP services, right? So let me open again SSH here. Now how system know how this particular discovery port probe knows key we need to trigger the Unix classification, not the Windows one, on which basis? So that will be triggered based on these particular services. Let me open this table as well, and that is the IP service table basically. Open it. Yeah, so that is my CMDB IP service table. Let me open this one as well. I hope it's not confusing you guys. So here in this particular table, you have all names, service names, port, whatever, right? If I put SSH here in simple, see SSH have the service name is secure cell service, port is 22. What is the protocol that is running is TCP protocol. If I search the same for SNMP, you can see SNMP 161 port is running UDP, SNMP trap 162 UDP, right? There are a couple of SNMP multiplexing or Huawei SNMP which is running on 982 port, right? So here in this particular table, IP service table, we have simply mentioned this is my port, this is my protocol, and this is my service name, which will be used in the discovery port prop table to trigger my classification basically, right? So how that will works, and if I simply say show you or update you or mention you, when you're running discovery, the first Shazam Pro will be triggered. Shazam Pro will check is port 22 open, port 22 open, based on the port 22 open, that discovery port prop service understand, yeah, port 22 belongs to SSH, and then we need to be trigger the Unix classification, right? So if you see that SSH, it's mentioned CIS true, IP is true, active true, conditional false, right? So conditions will not be captured. The same way, if we have Windows, or we have to be discover uh, storage, or we have to be discover the network device, the same way, if SNMP, the service name is there, it's matched the port 161 is open, yes, open, let's trigger the discovery classification for SNMP classifications, and based on that classification will be triggered, right? So using this particular port, now what else we can use the IP service table or the port prop table? Let's take an example. Your customer also doing, or your customer have customized port for some of their machines, right? So as you know, out of the box port for Linux machines or Unix machine is port 22, but port 22 customer is using for couple of machines, but except that he is also using port 30 to discover or to connect their Linux machines. He customized that particular port to port 30 due to some security reasons. He don't want to be exposed out of the box port, so anyone can connect and do some threads on it, right? So he customize the port 30, but when you are running discovery, the device is not discovered, and you see the port 22 is open. Port 22 is open, that's working, but credential is not validated. When you go back to customer says credentials are correct, but still your device is not discovering, right? So sometimes that can be an issue. Actual the port which required to connect or discover that machine is not port 22, that is custom port 30. So if you want to discover that particular devices from the port 30, you have to be create one service here, IP service here, come here, just create like that. That is again a SSH service which is running on port 22 or port 30 and the TCP's protocol, right? So I can put something like this: SSH service name is secure, port is 30, right? It's TCP UDP, what type of port is, and what where you want to be create the CIs, right? I want to be create the CIs in Linux server table. So once I have done this one, then I have to come back and define the discovery port prob here. If I go here, because it's SSH already named there, let me save this like this way. If I come here, what is the name? The discovery port prob I just want to be, right? So I put the name again, I'm just putting SSH description. If I want to report any specific things, I just want to be mentioned as a scanner, but what is the triggered service for that is SSH, right? So I put SSH1, use this one, and I need to be select the classification out of the box available, because we are not modifying anything. We are just only trying to discover that machine or that device based on the port, custom port 30, right? So I'm going to use the same classification, which is Linux one or the Unix one, I think so. Yeah, this one, right? And yes, that's submitted. So based on that one, that is going to be triggered as well. If the customer has decided to do some custom ports for that particular services. And this is just an example for SSH. The same way it will work for storage or SNMP or Windows machines as well, because these are the standard protocols which is going to use in an organizations, apart from that applications or the database and other things, right? So any questions in that one port prob one or the discovery functionality? Then I will come back to the discovery behaviors basically. Any questions? Yeah, someone raised hand. Yes, Eklavya.
Yeah, I mean, I have a question on the behavior. So what I understood with your explanation is behavior is nothing. It is a set of instruction that discovery schedules follow. If I am correct with your explanation.
Definitely. That is the set of instructions which we want to be follow for that particular discovery schedule.
Okay, so what exactly we are trying to achieve by setting up these instructions? Like discovery port 22. We know, like okay, so it is Linux based and all those for 135 Windows and all. So,
Mhm.
so why we are extra setting up these behaviors? What is the need or what is the purpose of it?
Right. So need and the purpose of the behavior is, let me ask you in one scenario,
Mm-hmm.
given you a IP range of /20. Okay. And /20 approx 4,000 IPs are there, more than 4,000.
Yeah, yeah.
In /20, if you have 4,000 IPs and you don't know in that particular 4,000 IPs, which is Windows machine, which is Linux, which is network, or which is storage. But
Okay.
my condition is only, Eklavya, you need to discover only Linux machine from that 4,000 IPs. What you will do? And I
Okay.
want to be update my Linux server table, not the other tables. Only want to discover Linux because that's requirement is mine to discover from that particular IP subnet. What do you do?
Okay. So in that scenarios, I have to
Scenario.
choose a behavior which is more specific for a Linux
Right.
server. Something.
Right. So in that case, there is no other port probe or the Shazam probe will be triggered for Windows, and only it going to be discover that Linux machine. Right. So what that I'm going to be configure here, and just to showcase you as well. So let me close this one. Let's select the discovery functionality. I'm just going to be select the Linux, right? So where is Linux? Is something Linux only, right? This is this one. I'm just going to be select again mid server here. Let's select this one. Let's lock. I'm just going to be save this one. Right now, let me come back to my discovery schedule. I will showcase you the result here. If I go to discovery schedule, I'm going to be open the now learning discovery schedule. First of all, you can see in this particular discovery schedule, I've also added just for testing purpose /24, this particular 3 IPs. In these particular 3 IPs or whatever the IPs I've added here, IP range, IP network or whatever, right? Only the 74 IP is belongs to Linux machine. I know it, right? But if you don't know, then you can use this one, right? But 74 is belongs to Linux machine, and other these two machine is belongs to Windows machine. So whenever I'm going to use this one, let me use the Linux one. Let me save this. I'm again going to use behavior Linux machine, already attached a mid server to that particular behavior and going to be discovered now. So in that case, you see all there are 100 of IPs there, right? But it's only discovering which machine or which things belongs to SSH or Linux only, right? Let me open meanwhile one more status, discovery status, which we have already run yesterday. It's now running. This is this, I think this one. Yeah. Okay, let's wait for a couple of minutes. Meanwhile, it's running. I will go to this particular discovery. This is also a now learning discovery schedule, which we run yesterday. Here, if you see, we have able to discover, because this is the same discovery schedule, which I have just modified with discovery behavior Linux only, right? So here, if you see, we are able to discover the all machines, right? Windows, we are able to discover Linux, and 3 machines will be discovered basically, right? And if I
Yeah.
go to PCQ in the Shazam probe, you can see the all Shazam probe will be triggered, like WMI, SNMP, SSH. It's checked the all ports, and based on that classification will happen, and it will discover those machines, right? But in when we are using discovery one, when we are using discovery behavior one, only the Shazam probe triggered for SSH. There is no triggered for WMI or SNMP and all, because we want to discover only Linux machine from that particular one. So this is the use of behavior, and only one machine will going to be discovered here, which is Linux, not Windows and all. And you can see simply that for Windows and all, it's saying alive, not active, not classified, because in discovery behavior, we have controlled that one. We don't want to be discover the Windows machine. If I just simply again, if this particular discovery schedule, if I remove the discovery behavior and running in the normal way using the mid servers, it will discover again those particular machines, Windows and all. But requirement is only to discover Windows, right? So here, yeah, go ahead.
Ajay, this is clear. This is pretty much like, straightforward now. These kind of instruction which we are giving to the discovery schedule, that find out or discover a particular machine or particular host or target machine, whether it is Linux, Unix, or Windows and all. I have noticed one of WinRM in the schedule, wherein like all the SSH and everything was there. I saw that WinRM. Yeah, if you go down, WinRM only. What exactly is that? Because this is SSL and certs, both the things are there. Okay. WinRM only.
Right. So let me open this one just to showcase you. Let me open. I think let me open in this way. Let me search for WinRM. WinRM. Yeah. Oh, okay. That is already there. Let me open that IP service table. One moment. Just want to showcase you in simple way. So yeah, not be, confused. WinRM. See. In simple words, if I say on Windows, specifically Windows devices, right? So there are multiple ways, multiple ports are running on it, right? So just to classify that particular ports, if it is a web server, what type of that device it is, and where we need to be classified that one, that is the WinRM basically, right? So if like in SSH we have only SSH port 22, but in Windows side we have WinRM, we have WBEM, we have WMI, right? So WMI is going to use for Windows discovery, Windows device discovery specifically. WBM comes in the picture when you have storage, SMSI application or SMI install on your Windows machine, then WBEM come in the picture, right? And the third is WinRM, right? So this is again, its description mentioned here, it's Windows remote management and for HTTP web server. It's also going to be classifier for Windows classifications using this particular service, and this particular trigger will triggered. Sorry, why it's this particular trigger or trigger probe will be triggered to classify if we found the port WinRM is also enabled on that machine, right? So as you know, like whatever the ports we have available when we are triggering the discovery on that specific port, we are identifying that is a Windows machine. But that is a Windows machine or whatever machine it is. But in Windows, we have couple of ports based on the devices. That's why if you remember when I mentioned specifically for Windows specific ports, I have a huge range, that is port 135, 137, 139, and a DCOM port ranges, and 5980, 5988, I think, right? And 443. So there are different ports on which Windows service is running, but end of the day, based on that particular ports, we are classifying this is a Windows machine, right? So that one service which is running on the WinRM, and WinRM is again running on which port it is. Let me see and showcase you. It's I think 130, yeah, 5985 and 5986. So SSL is nothing, and SSL, that particular which you mentioned, everywhere where it is, yeah. So if you see TLS SSL certs is everywhere added, right? This is for certifications discovery directly, right, on the host if you are going to use this one. So it's TLS SSL search is everywhere added. And WinRM specifically, you see WinRM or WinRM SSLs, that is based on that particular port which I just showcased you, 5985 or 5986. So
Yeah.
that port is also required to be open, sometimes to be the do the Windows discovery basically. So Windows we have different, right? WBM, as I mentioned, this is going to be comes in the picture when you are going to be discover a Windows machine on which SMIS is installed, or SMIS basically storage management server is installed on it, and it will help to discover the storage as well. So WBEM, you specifically see that particular time. Windows only, if you see the Windows, if I see Windows only, all the ports which I just mentioned, WMI, WinRM, WinRM SSL, or TSL, all is added here. If I just want to discover Windows DNS and Wins, you can see WMI, DNS, Wins, WinRM is all there, right? If I want to discover WMI only, means again only Windows, right? So that is WMI and TSS SSL search is there. So this is just a conditions, or we can say, or just a configuration which we are passing through that port props or functionality definitions to discover that particular type of devices. That's it. And based on that, next level of the step or the classification process or prop will be triggered to classify that machine. Okay.
Thanks, Jay.
Yeah. Any other questions from anyone before moving to the next things now?
Yes, Ajay. Can we? I want to schedule the discovery for all the devices at the same time. So is it possible to do that?
Can you rephrase your question once again? All the same time for all devices? I didn't get you.
Can we schedule the discovery for all the devices? Discover all the devices. I want to discover all the devices at the same time.
Yeah, we can do that, but it depends how big IP or how big devices we are going to be discovered. Now let me take you an example, Archana here. If you have 1 lakh machine which you want to be discovered, 1 lakh IPs, simple words. Do you think you are going to be trigger the 1 lakh IP discovery in a single go? Or is your mid server able to take the load of it?
Okay.
Right, so that's why what we do, and also it's not, it's little bit crazy to that 1 lakh IP belongs to one data center, right? So what we do in that case, we are just going to be split out based on the locations, based on the regions, or based on the data center, or based on the IP ranges or IP subnets, right? So
Yes.
in future, if we want, it will not disrupt our mid server load, or if we want to add more IP ranges or more IP subnet based on the locations, that will be discovered or updated my location on the CMDB table, right? If I have 1 lakh IPs, I don't know the location, I just put it, right? There is no issue to do that. But end of the day, first of all, that 1 lakh IP is taking more time to discover. Second thing, it will definitely going to be stress out your mid server, and might be possibility whatever that high configuration mid servers you're using, it's possibility your mid server will down sometimes, not every time, but sometimes whenever you have lots of data to collect it, right? So that's why we always suggest to split out or break out in the small chunks and configure in that way. Once first completed, then second will run, the second completed, third will run, that you can use it, or
Yes.
and put the specific time. The first will run on 10 o'clock, second will start at 11 o'clock, third will start at 12 o'clock. It's up to us to relate it to that configuration basically.
Okay.
Okay, so it will not stress out, or we have a little logs analysis as well. But end of the day, customer says do it, but we have to also see our comfort as well, because end of the day we have to be provide the report to the customer on which IPs is not discovered. So we have to check the logs, we have to go with discovery schedule status and all, right? And if we have put it 1 lakh IPs, it's crazy to get the data from there, right? So suggestion is
Yes.
to break out in small chunks, but you can discover the all IPs in a single night itself if you configured properly with after discovery or the proper timings basically. Okay, any other questions from anyone else?
Yes, Ajay.
Yeah.
Ajay, have a question regarding to subnet. Suppose if client given so-and-so IP address and followed by subnet, is that required? No, we need to find out starting IP, ending IP, and based on that, we need to schedule like how it is, Ajay. Bit confused over there.
Come again. Just repeat once again. Let me go to the discovery schedule till the time. Yeah.
Yep. I'm saying that if client given one IP address followed by some subnet, and is it mandatory to to find out the starting IP and ending IP? If yes, how it is we do, and then a bit confused over there, Ajay.
The first of all,
Mhm.
it's not required and it's not mandatory to, providing starting IP or end IP. While you are doing discovery schedule, you can directly put your discovery, or sorry, it's up subnet directly on the discovery schedules. Like same way, if let me give an example. Let me open that particular schedule. Open it. I think somehow it's running slow. Why it's running slow? Okay, so meanwhile it's opening, let's take an example. You have a subnet. Okay, let me do. You have a subnet 10.0.0.1/24. Okay, customer give you that particular subnet. You can go in discovery schedule, directly put it that discovery schedule or IP subnet in discovery schedule and discover it. There is no harm to do that. But still, if you want to understand how many IPs and what is the starting IP and what is the end IP of it, as I mentioned yesterday, I have given you one formula on the chat as well, if I'm not wrong. This is the formula.
Yes, Ajay.
Yeah, this is a formula you can use. If you are not comfortable using this one, what I do, I simply, I am trying to do my work simple most of the time. So I will go to net calculator. It's easy. I can go here. What is the IP which I put it? My IP is my subnet is 24. Okay, and my IP is 10.0.0.1. Let's calculate this one. You can see the from IP address 10.0.0.1 is the network address is this, usable IP host range is this 10.0.0.1 to 10.0.0.254. Actual in/24 there are 256 IPs in which we are able to use 254. I got it in simple, very quick, right? So you can use this one IP subnet calculator if you want to start or end, but there is no harm directly using. Why it's not open? There is no harm directly using the subnet as well, but that there is one small catch here. If customer give you /16 and the IP again I'm going to use is 192.0.0.1 example. See, there are 65,536 IPs total. And usable IPs are 65,534. In that
What does it
case,
mean, Ajay?
sorry,
Sorry, sorry, bit confused. And total number of posts means like 65,000 something change, right? You mean to say that we going to discover, or what does that mean exactly?
yes,
What does that mean?
means whenever whenever you're using a subnet, in every subnet, two IPs are reserved. In simple words, if I say, so total IPs is 536, but two IPs are reserved and only a organization from that subnet is able to use 65,534 IPs, and that IPs we have to be discovered. Okay, And if that is a huge /16 subnet, then sometimes we need to be break that particular subnet in small chunks to put it in different discovery schedule or put it in different different subnets in the same schedule. So again, you can use that particular calculator to get that visibility or get that understanding. This is the IP starting from this, and that is going to be till this. I hope you're following me, or still confused.
Yes.
Okay. And as I mentioned, there are three classes A, B, C. I already put it, the IP ranges and all, right? So that you can use. And it's IP subnet calculator is little or much easy as compared to that formula. But if you are comfortable with mathematics, you can go with that formula. If you're comfortable with this one, I think this is little easy to get more visibility around it, right? So I'm going to use this one, basically IP subnet calculator, to calculate the starting or end range. If I just want to see how many IPs will be there, or also if I'm not sure or if I'm going to be confused to understand what is a subnet, what is other things, I'm going to use this particular one immediately. Okay, and the same way I just mentioned here, I am also going to use IP network here. IP ranges is something, if you have a, in this particular subnet, as I mentioned, there are 254 IPs, right? But in these 254 IPs, customer is only using 20 IPs, and he don't want to be discover the or try to discover all full range of that particular subnet. So he will give you, this is my starting range and this is my end range. You just add as a IP address ranges to discover. You can do that in that case. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So that is basically use of IP ranges or IP subnets. Okay. Any other questions from anyone else?
Yeah, Ajay, I have a question.
Yes, Ritam.
So, in the discovery log of the discovery status, so there are no two types of, not two types, some types of messages that the label was like that, warning one, like the error one, like the information one. So what happened, like during observing the log.
Okay, so I think let's discuss this particular thing tomorrow with an example. So warning, basically, warning is just give you the informations key. This is a warning, but somehow that is not going to be impact your discovery. But if something error is there, that means your discovery is not running or impacted to that particular error, and then we have to be debug it, right? So let's do one thing. Let's do a live example tomorrow of discover one Linux or Windows machine, and let's see how the logs visible there and how many phases you can identify from there. But because if I now it will take some time, but let's do tomorrow this particular thing.
Okay, Ajay.
Yeah. Okay, I think then we are good. So we are on the time now. Any last question from anyone else? Oh, no. I think, yeah, then thank you guys. Yeah. Yes, Hitam?
Hello.
Yes, Mustan.
Yeah, Ajay, I have one more last question, not related to discovery. It's related to event management. Just give me an idea. Like here, with the help of event manager, we are creating an incident, and then in incident we have a configuration item, right?
Yes.
CI. For the particular CI, associated service is not reflecting, and is that it is a part of its service mapping or like any other Ajay?
That is part of your CSDM basically. If you have configured your CSDM properly, you have configured or mapped the services or whatever services, whatever service type it is, based on that will be populating, and that is basically not coming from any discovery. That is pure theoretical or the manual part which comes in the CSDM when you are designing the complete common service data model for your organization.
Oh, It's not part of event management.
It's not part. Not part of event management as well. It's part of the CSDM. So it's just like event management is utilizing that information. Right. If you already do some mapping of the CIs or the services and all, it's utilizing that information and populating on the incident through the event management.
Okay.
So it's it's part of CSDM, Common Service Data Model. I think in couple of after that discovery completes, we'll going to be a little bit discuss about the CSDM as well, how and you can define the CSDM things basically from the basic perspective.
Oh, okay, Ajay. Okay, Ajay. Thank you, Ajay.
Yeah. Sure. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye bye. Take care. We'll meet you tomorrow at the same time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Ajay. Thank you, Ajay.
Bye bye.
Bye.